The Houston Astros have an incredible yet very complicated legacy, making it to 4 World Series within 6 years and winning 2 of them, while also being involved in a heated cheating scandal and being universally hated across baseball. And trust me, we're gonna get to the whole scandal later, but first, let's just go ahead and talk about how the Astros have been so dominant on the field. After going 56 and 106 in 2011, the Astros knew that they had to make a change, so they hired Jeff Luhnow to be their new GM and kick off the rebuild, and quite a rebuild it was. They would lose 105 or more games from 2011 through 2013, the first year that they moved to the AL West. Now, Luhnow already had second baseman Jose Altuve, who made his debut in 2011, and 2009 7th rounder starting pitcher Dallas Keuchel within the organization, but he knew that he needed to add more young talent to this team. Now, Luhnow really built his young core, drafting in the first round from 2011 to 2015, getting players like George Springer, Lance McCullers Jr., Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, and Kyle Tucker, all in the first round in these years. Now, the last piece of their young core, they added in a trade in 2016, getting back outfield DH prospect Yordan Alvarez. But mainly, once this core was in place, they used trades to add big-name veteran players. At the 2017 deadline, they added starting pitcher Justin Verlander, and in the 2018 offseason, they added starter Garrett Cole. At the 2018 deadline, they added closer Ryan Presley, and at the 2019 deadline, they added starter Zach Greinke. The Astros never really built through free agency. The only big piece really that they've added through free agency was Michael Brantley in the 2018 offseason. So we know how the Astros ended up building this team, but what specifically were they looking for in their players that's made them so dominant? Since the start of their run in 2017, the Astros have ranked first in average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS, WOBA, and WRC+. They've been the best offense in baseball, but that's the very, very simple answer. There has to be some skill that the Astros look for that's helped their hitters be so successful, and this is an answer I've been looking for a while, and I finally found out their secret, so let's get into this. What the Astros look for more than anything is bat-to-ball skills that's going to help their batters not strike out. They've been first in strikeout percentage and contact percentage. On top of this, their batters stay very patient and they make pitchers have to come at them. They have the 3rd lowest swing percentage and the 5th lowest chase rate in baseball over this time. And with their pitching, we see almost this same exact strategy, just obviously it's in reverse because now they're not hitting their pitching. You know what I mean. Both their starters and their relievers have been first in strikeout percentage over this time because they find guys that get whiffs. Their starters have been 4th in whiff percentage and their relievers have been 1st. When they have guys that it's hard enough to just get the bat on the ball, like let alone good luck trying to square it up and get barrels against these guys. Their starters have been 5th in barrel percentage and their relievers 4th. This leads to them not giving up that many hits, where their average against has been 2nd for their starters and 3rd for their relievers, because they're getting all of this soft contact when you're not able to square the ball up. Now, their position players aren't just here for all of this offense. No, they can play defense too. In fact, they've been the best defense in baseball over this time. They've been ranked 1st in defensive runs saved, outs above average, and Fangraphs has had them as the best defense in baseball. Going by position, their left fielders have been the 2nd best defenders in baseball, 3rd basemen have been 4th, and right fielders have been 5th. Their lowest position is center field, which has only been 12th, so still even in the top half. So when it comes to what the Astros have been able to do on the field, there's no question that they've come up with one of the best blueprints for how to build a successful team of all time. But there's kind of a big ass elephant in the room, or I guess more specifically, it was over the center field wall and in the dugout hallway that we have to address now. And look, I know some of this is gonna get controversial. I'm gonna stick as best as I can to just stating the facts, just stating what's been reported, and not getting into all this kind of speculation stuff of everything else that's come up. So here we go. In November 2019, Ken Rosenthal and Evan Drellich at The Athletic published an article where Mike Fiers, who was a reliever for Houston in 2017, told them about how the Astros were using a camera system over the center field wall to film opposing catchers' signals. This footage was sent through a live feed into the Astros replay room that was right inside the dugout, where Astros players or staffers would watch the feed, break down catcher signals, and then signal audibly to the hitters, whether that was banging on a trash can, whistling, yelling at them. They would let them know one way or the other what kind of a pitch was coming. After this article was published, MLB investigated and confirmed in January of 2020 that the Astros had used the camera system in the 2017 regular season as well as the playoffs and part of 2018. They stated there was no evidence that they had used the system in 2019. Now, because of this investigation, Astros GM Jeff Luhnow and manager AJ Hinch were suspended for a year by baseball, and the Astros immediately fired both of them. The Astros were also fined $5 million and lost their first and second round picks in both 2020 and 2021. Now, no players were punished because of this investigation because MLB offered them immunity if they would cooperate in the investigation. Alex Cora, who was the Red Sox manager at the time, and Carlos Beltran, who was hired to be the Mets manager, were also both involved in this investigation and mutually parted ways with their team because of this. Okay, so first, let's just go ahead and get into the sign stealing thing. That's been a part of baseball for as long as baseball has used signs. In fact, it's encouraged. It's a skill set. If you can get on base on second, break down what the catcher is doing and figure out the signs and tell your guy, you're doing a really, really good job. Where the Astros went wrong was the fact that they were using technology to do it. But they weren't the only team that was doing this. In 2017, Boston was fined for using smartwatches to try to steal signs from the New York Yankees, who were also punished that year for using the replay room and the phone in there to call directly into the dugout to tell batters what kind of pitches were coming in 2015 and 2016. So I'm gonna go out on a bit of a limb here and say that I think what Houston was doing wasn't necessarily all that terrible, right? Sign stealing is a part of baseball, and cheating is a part of baseball. We just had the whole sticky stuff thing, and one of the biggest eras of baseball is the steroid era. I think mainly what pissed people off with this scandal is the fact that the players who were involved weren't punished at all when it was mainly a player-driven scheme, and kind of how they reacted in the first place when this all came out wasn't the greatest look. When this all first came out, Alex Bregman repeatedly answered questions from the media with, quote, "The commissioner made his report, made his decision, and the Astros made their decision, and I have no further comment on it. My man was out here pulling a Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined." Jose Altuve also said, quote, "I think the time to comment about that will come," end quote. The first players that actually publicly apologized, Dallas Keuchel and Marwin Gonzalez, were no longer on the Astros. And you still had players like Ken Giles, who was the Astros closer in 2017, denying that he even knew that the scandal was going on in the first place, let alone players denying other information that would eventually come out later. Jared Diamond wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal where he stated that the scandal started in September of 2016. The team had used a code breaker Excel program to break down the opposing team's signs, and Luhnow was not only aware, but very enthusiastic about the system. The article also mentioned a letter that Rob Manfred had sent to Luhnow in January of 2020, where he wrote, quote, "Most or all Astros players were active participants in the banging scheme by the conclusion of the 2017 World Series. The banging scheme was so prevalent that witnesses regularly described that everyone in and around the Astros dugout was presumptively aware of it." Rosenthal and Drellich would post another article on The Athletic in February where it portrayed Carlos Beltran as the ringleader of the system and said that players like Brian McCann had asked him to stop, and Beltran, quote, "disregarded it and steamrolled everybody." Rob Manfred later stated that the reason MLB didn't punish the players was because they knew that if they actually did punish them, the players union was gonna file a grievance, And MLB would lose that grievance because in 2017, MLB sent out a memo reminding teams that, hey, you can't use technology to try to get an advantage on the field, and Lunhao just didn't tell his players, apparently. The whole scandal led to 2 lawsuits that were filed over betting, one from a former pitcher, Mike Bolsinger, who was demoted after a tough outing against Houston and never played in the major leagues again. 3 lawsuits from season ticket holders that claim that prices were raised because the Astros were successful due to the scandal, and one from Lunhao himself, who alleged that owner Jim Crane and Rob Manfred had painted him as the scapegoat in order to save the team $22 million in guaranteed salaries. So it's safe to say, I think I could say it, right? This isn't gonna piss people off. This whole thing was a giant clusterfuck. And if MLB would have just handled it appropriately, it probably gets washed under the rug fairly quickly, just like the whole Boston and New York Yankees using technology stuff. But because of how this was handled, the players not initially taking responsibility, MLB not making them face consequences for what they were doing, and seemingly them just being able to take all the success that they got from it and just keep going on and, hey, don't do it again. This is why this has been such a controversial thing here for the Astros. So yeah, have the Astros been the best team in baseball since 2017 and possibly one of even the best teams of all time during this stretch? You can make that argument for sure, but it's gonna be really tough for them to get over this black eye that started this entire run for them. So now with all of this said, what are your thoughts on the Astros? Their on-field dominance, the whole sign stealing scandal, and just anything else that you can go ahead and think of? Comment all of that down below. Kind of on the exact flip side of this, the Atlanta Braves got in trouble for breaking international signing rules and had to fire their GM. And then their new GM came in and has built them into a potential dynasty to really rival the Astros, American League versus National League here. So to learn more about that, check out this video right here. And as always, thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.